Welcome, everybody. Hope you're having a good Friday. I had an interesting call yesterday, which really aligns with today's topic. And it started to go with a lot of the themes of the calls that we've been having in the firm around accounting and tax when you are still building your business. If you are new to the community, welcome. If you've been here for a while and you're more seasoned, welcome. Welcome back. If you're on the replay, say hello. I'm really, really excited that you are watching. I got to hear from a few of you this week that you are watching the replays. There seems to be something happening within school that maybe your progress isn't really registering. So just take note of that and keep track of what you're listening. And I would love to know. So the theme of the call this week, and in specific yesterday, I think it was yesterday, of a call that I was on was very interesting around, building a business also at the same time as doing a W-2 job. And now that it's tax season, it's like, what is she supposed to do? What's not supposed to do? Which is a very common theme at the beginning when you're building. So, what I actually told her was because you're a W-2, there's a lot less to do when if the business was like truly up and running. So, the business really didn't make money and she doesn't have an S corp yet. So really what it was is that because she opened up an LLC and the LLC does go on your personal return, not until you do an actual entity election is it a separate return. I also heard a lot of unknowns of what we should be doing and shouldn't be doing. So today's presentation is really the roadmap of the strong five pillars, uh, what are really incremental in building a practice and knowing around taxes as well. And I say this to say is that, a lot of it came from working with clients, my own journey, and also seeing what was really making the biggest difference with clients. And before I get into the slides today, talking about my own journey a little bit, I remember when I was actually building it myself, it was like over 10 years ago. And I remember the crazy day when my tax bill was there. And as a person in the field, it was like, how can I not know? And it was really that strong gap between what was told to me in school, what I learned in being in a big accounting firm, and like really understanding the world of like what is and what was really happening in my world. And when my mentor at the time told me that I needed an S corp and I needed to do tax planning, I was like, what? And I didn't say yes because it said like it was like too good to be true. It almost felt like I was like lying or cheating or stealing. And the bill was like around eight to $12,000. Like there was a reflection of different things that were going on. I don't remember the exact amount. And what happened was is that I did say no, and I knew I needed to pay, and then I was going to need to pay this person for the services at the same time. And I was like, how am I coming up with all of this money? How am I doing this? Like, is there something wrong? And when I said no to myself, what happened was with saying no to myself, I still had to pay that balance. So a lot of the situations that you were in of that unknown, I was in. And really, what made my journey begin of not just being a bookkeeper and not just being a tax person, professional, of doing what was told in the field, meaning, helping you with tax returns and that nature. It was more so around really leveraging of what was going to be helpful in the most way so that you could master your numbers and also benefit tax wise. The simple answer to that is bookkeeping. And I can't say it enough that if you don't do outsourced bookkeeping or you're behind or somebody is doing it for you or you're not sure, you're working on a budget and that's behind, there's a tool in the school system. It's called bookkeeping training. And as it is a paid tool, but it's going to save you a whole heap more money than just trying to wing your numbers. The common question around buying that tool is that why your spreadsheet, Margo, and not somebody else's? The answer is from a tax advisor. I basically took the whole process into an 8-minute training, which is really like a $1,500 value of services. And you get to use that spreadsheet and you get to hear that training over and over and over. So I can't say it enough. Even if you are working for with somebody, but your personal maybe is still mixed in, having that training is going to teach you a lot around the process. Another thing that she said to me that was really, um, I was really taken by it a little bit, that I was like, oh wow, so interesting. Just because, let's say right, I was talking to her, I specialize in the mental health field, that she's like, oh, so you're going to get me the best return, oh, the best deal on my tax return. And what I said to her was, and it's the same thing I tell all my clients, we have to do the work in order to get the best deal. You can't come at the end of the year and then expect the best deal when you're not doing the work all year. It's almost like when you set your goals in January and then you didn't lose the weight or you didn't gain the weight, depending on where you are. And you're coming back in December and you kind of like to the program is like, I didn't make out on this. So can I have my money back? So we have to do the work to be able to get that deal, and to have those steps is where I've built these trainings. So on that note, let's jump into today's training. Shauna, can you just confirm I shared the screen well?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So this is your tax roadmap for a clear path to a stable, predictable financial structure. So, okay. What you may be feeling about taxes is you're not sure how much to save. Quarterly taxes are feeling confusing. You're avoiding your numbers. Tax season feels like a surprise. You're unsure if your structure is right. Maybe there's more. However, these are like the common ones that we know our clients are feeling. So, why does this happen? There's no clear financial system. Today, I gave you the key to have the financial system. Income not tracked consistently, expenses not fully categorized, structure chosen without strategy, taxes handled once a year. So structure chosen without strategy, the most common feedback that I get is that I did it because I was told in a group or like with a coffee chat. It wasn't chosen an S corp based on talking to a professional who actually spoke about your business. And I can't tell you more times than not, then people jump to the S structure where they're putting them in a high tax structure because they're thinking like, oh yeah, they're going to do it. My business is going to produce, or this one said it. And they're really not even close to where they need to be. And also not understanding that, or not realizing that you need two returns. And taxes handled once a year, we can't do that. Once we're in the business, we're responsible. It doesn't matter if something happened or changed or a person died or the person didn't get back to you. If it's not in a timely manner and you need it, move on. Okay? I was on a group call the other day and somebody was saying how her tax person hides the numbers from her. And I was like, run. As simple as that. So the mansion metaphor, your business is like a mansion, okay? The roof is your tax outcome, right? We look at the business that the roof is the tax outcome, and the pillars hold everything up. Weak pillars create financial stress. Strong pillars create stability. So we're walking into the house, and what holds it up is the tax structure. So imagine you're in your house, and what's like a regular house, what's holding it up? The floor, the walls, the this, the that, the beams, the roof, and this is in the business. So you're walking into your business, what holds it up is the right tax structure. If we're weak, we're going to have weak results. Strong pillars create stability. Here are the pillars: income growth, deduction and expenses, and business entity choice. Let's think about that for a minute. Think about what it means to you. These pillars show up to support your tax outcome. When aligned, taxes become predictable. The first one, tracking monthly revenue, notice income patterns, understanding seasonal changes, base tax plans on real numbers. Growth without planning creates tax stress. So the first one is income growth. Now, The feedback I get around this is like, oh, Margo, my numbers fluctuate from week to week or day to day or month to month. Of course they do. That's part of business. The thing is, there's a general average, and that's what we do it by. You're not going to always get November and November, December and December, and so on. It could be you could get November into February, February into June, because of some of your own insurances and depending on how the process is. Lately, I'm hearing a lot of clients saying that, that the money is coming in more consistently, but it all depends on how you set up the process. So all of the income growth depends upon what we do to put ourselves in the best spot. What income clarity really gives you? Predictable tax savings, clear cash flow decisions, confidence in your numbers. Usually when people are upset about income or not or buying things, it's because they're completely not clear around how much they make. And it actually, come to think of it, a lot of clients lately, one of my clients actually that I've been working on saying a specific story, he was telling me, he's like, you know what, Margo? He goes, all of this work made me realize it's not my business. It's my personal life that I don't know. We're so worried about the business that in personal, we really don't know. Personal is just as easy, important as the business. I want to say that again. Personal is just as important, if not more, than the business. We don't want to work around our business life. We want business to work around a personal life. We built a business for freedom, and we didn't build a business to be in this jail to hold us down. Deductions and expenses. What do you take from that? Tracking all business expenses, categorizing consistently, capturing every valid deduction, keeping receipts and records. Untracked is what you can't measure. Leads to a result that we can't predict. So if it's not tracked, it's kind of left to feather out, to vent out for itself. Tax bills, debt, lines of credit needing, not being able to pay bills, thinking that your business is not successful, thinking you're not good enough. What expenses clarify? Lower taxable income, fewer IRS issues, better budgeting decisions, more predictable tax bills, and stronger financial control. A lot of people I'm understanding lately also is that they're trying to cut expenses, but not really understand why the expenses were there to begin with. You can't cut something that you may need. For instance, the other day I was looking at the TV apps that we have, and I was like, oh, wow, we have, I think it was like three different types of TV apps. And I spoke to my daughter and she was like, oh yeah, I use this for that, da, 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 da. Da." And I was like, oh, do we really need these all? And she's like, yeah. So we need them. But I say this to say like a fun little example is that if it's the entertainment of your home, you want that. Entertainment and joy is really, really important. We don't want to cut just to cut because then you don't have a way to unwind and do other things. So we want to do things to give us the clarity so that we get these types of results. The big thing here is always the entity choice. Sole proprietor, LLC, and S Corp. There's way more, but for the purpose of this presentation, I want to talk about these. And I'm actually going to give a story instead of really talking about what's on the slide, okay? We have a client now that we're working on. She has a sole proprietor and she has an S Corp. And what the firm did was they are funneling the sole proprietor income to the S Corp and filing under the S Corp, but the money really came in under the sole proprietor. So now on her personal side, because the sole proprietor is if it's to her, all the money is coming to her. So that's why the tax bill is so high. But not in the right way of the tax law, now funneling the money over to her S Corp. Where the money comes in is where the money gets reported. It's a lot of fixing. What's very common is that where the money comes into is how you're going to pay expenses and all these types of things. So it's a huge mental health practice. And without it, obviously, she can't pay payroll and different things. But because of all these insurances to change it or whatnot, it's going to affect the business. So there's a lot of different moving parts with this. So when you make these structures, you want all of those high level things and those sub level items to match where you are. If you're a sole proprietor, your income needs to match that. If you're under an S, the person who you're working for also needs to give you your year-end information under the S. 11 out of 10, 150 out of 100, I have an issue with these with all of the returns. And I say this to say is that it's not fun watching clients suffer with this. And most of the time what happens is that um, they realize it once the returns are actually processing. And this is why bookkeeping is so important. The structure affects how you're taxed, and the right entity supports your growth. The seating package. This is our package that I wanted to talk about with you today is that it's a way from you to get from disorganization to a stable, steady business. So a lot of you in here are sitting with different parts of this that maybe you're doing and you're not doing. And I wanted to offer you to come on board, to talk about how this can really help you. These pillars will become foundational and it's going to become part of your monthly process to work together. Now, not only that, you're going to get monthly bookkeeping, which means a record of your income and expenses, proper expense categorization, monthly reports, and on-demand answers and support. So basically, I'm helping you hold together this part of the business so that you can grow. Most clients rename this as like your 12 steps to a proper tax return and to tax freedom. So one day I'm going to rename this, but I called it seeding because it's really the seeding for your business. And it's the most basic way to get help, but also at the same time to get support and hold you accountable. The reason why accountability here is so important is because who else is going to make sure that you're following the tax law and you don't realize this 5 years later, 10 years later, like I was talking about in this other example, and then you have to amend the returns and do the other things. So the goal of today was to talk about the tax roadmap to make sure that you had the proper value in terms of like the steps of where you want to go. So start building the foundation of your mansion. And this is our way to invite you in. I also invite you to have a call with me so that we can talk about it further. And I would say with tax returns, a lot of you might need help. I would love for you to do that. I would also suggest that you take control of taxes, let your numbers support the practice, and not just stress you out. And I say that to say is that what's stressing us out is where we need to put our time. And where we need to put our time is something that we need to not take lightly. You know, I'm working on a new project now, and to make that more hyper focused time, I just have to be honest, is like, it's been a little hard for me because it's a new project that I'm working on. And it's almost like in addition to, it's not almost, it's in addition to everything else. So part of my responsibilities got shifted elsewhere. But at the same time, like my internal teammate who's doing it is kind of like still learning and whatnot. So it's not like completely disconnect because my body is registered for the task. So, anyways, um, I want you to really think about where you're at in the journey. And your first step from today is really to align with our talk. And I want to just actually go back to the a specific screen here um, where if you think about the core things that you have to do, it's making sure your business grows, making sure that you can deduct whatever is possible, and having the right entity choice. And when you're in the right entity choice, there's so much that could happen for you, and then it aligns from there. If you have an LLC, it goes on your personal return. If you have an S, you have another tax return that you have to do. And then from there, we talked about each of the pillars today, and I invite you to come on board for our seating package so that you have this support. I welcome you to talk about it with me more. Message me in school to talk about things. I love how a lot of you are using that, and it is really, really helpful. This week it was interesting. Like there was one every so often you get these different calls, and the person was kind of mad that I invited them onto a call to talk further to understand. And I never had that with somebody, usually giving them the floor to make sure I understand what they need, versus doing things through text, it's a whole new world. So we can work, however, it's what's important is that you get the business direction that you need, and we take it from there. So I want you to enjoy today's presentation. As always, any questions, let me know. Thank you for being in the community. And again, from today, I mean, there's a lot of call to act, there's a lot of action here that I spoke about, but depending on where you're at, I highly suggest that bookkeeping video. And also what I would say is that if you're looking to go that next level with these things to build a business, look into the course that's also in there, financial mastery. It's all these higher level concepts where you will master them. Some of the videos you may need to listen to more than once, but you're never going to have a question again on that stuff. I built it, I'm very proud of those videos, and I would love to work together with you on those as well. Talk soon, and thanks for listening today.